Okay, I think we're in YouTube. So hello everybody. This is the last meeting of February for the let me see. I think I messed up the sound. Yeah, for the Node.js web server frameworks. Okay, now the sound's fine. Sorry. I messed up with my own sound. So yeah. So first of all, before we go and start with announcements and so on, please add yourself to the meeting minutes. I will pass the link on the chat as well. So yeah, first thing, there is any announcements?
Hey, yeah.
Yep.
So I wanted to just give a quick shout out and recap of some stuff that's been going on with Express. So we have been doing this initiative we're calling the Express Forward Initiative. As a part of it, we've reconstituted the technical committee, and we've got a really great concrete plan to move forward with the project. And part of that has been onboarding Ulysses and Jean as TC members. So congrats to them. And more than just congrats, thanks for all the awesome hard work getting this put together and helping it succeed. And so one of the parts of that and why this is good for this group is that we explicitly have called out in our plans a future where either with within the next maybe year or two, really trying to commit the Express project to working closer with Node. Obviously, this group is the best way to do that. So like there's a whole bunch of items around lifting certain features into Node Core and working maybe with the Fastify folks and others on a more generic base API for that the framework can build on top of. So anybody is welcome to come on over to the Express side and help us. We got to get the project back into like functional shape before we can take on those bigger initiatives. But we are already starting. So Ulysses, I don't know if you wanted to mention a little bit about fixing it for Canary in the Gold Mine.
Oh, yep. We are preparing a new release for the Express package, just in Java now. I will pass the link to the pull request in a moment in the chat. And the idea with that release is actually to restore the capabilities for Express to be back on the canary in the gold mine of Node.js. So that will be a good move for us and will ensure that we don't break Express with new releases and so on. So yeah, it's a good step forward. We have been outside of the canary in the gold mine for the last year and a half, or potentially year at least. So yeah, it's going to be a big move.
And I think we can also add like you said, we don't want to break the current version of Express with a new release. So if there is people that are keen to be like beta testing the version or everything, that feel free to ping us on the Express repository and just to give us your feedback if you can upgrade for 4.18.2 to 4.18.3 soon. The more people that would be involved on testing that, like, would help us to provide the best quality and be sure that we are not breaking some specific use case that we may have not tested or we may not faced.
Yeah, we're stepping into some big shoes. Doug has been doing a great job, keeping things going for a long time. And because of that being mostly just Doug, we haven't done a lot of great cross-training and stuff. So we're pretty confident. We know what we're doing here, but it's new for us. So that kind of help of making sure we catch things early is greatly appreciated.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I think we can ask, well, maybe it's a little bit outside of the agenda, but I'm curious also to ask other web frameworks teams, how do you manage with other teams that are depending on your project? Like, for example, in the case of Express, with the Next.js is using it, and there are sales as well, and other frameworks are like built on top of. So how do you check that, like you don't break others? Do you like integration testing, stuff like that, or not at all? Or maybe it's off-topic discussion, so I don't want to
Also, I think
agenda.
I know Ethan does some stuff, but I don't know if it's any more. I don't know, Ethan, I don't want to volunteer you, but I think we're a little light on folks from the other frameworks today.
Yeah.
Which framework in particular? Sorry.
Yeah, we caught Ethan. It's even earlier. No coffee yet.
No coffee yet here. I have to go make some if I want it. Sorry, can someone repeat what the question was?
Like, I guess at Vercel, you do have some Next.js and maybe with some implementation running on top of Express. And the main question I think we want to ask is, would it be possible when you release the new version to ask you to run your test against the new version?
Yes. If there is something that we have that runs against Express,
Yeah, of course.
I think we don't actually have any major part of the code base on Express. I think we used it as a test server
Okay.
in the past.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
listed
pretty
in our
sure it was
dev dependencies.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was removed a couple of years ago now, right? Isn't that like it was there? It was more than just a test server. I think it was in some of the additional versions, maybe.
But even I guess if you have some like example or demo or how to use Express on Vercel, I think Vercel released an article a few months ago or so, like mid-year last year. Like if you have some code that like every test would be nice and quite interesting, I think.
Yes, exactly. So we do have an article on how to use Express, I think, to do like your own Next.js server. And then yeah, I'm looking here and it looks like in test lib next test utils is the only place that we actually use Express. And I don't know what the usage of this file is, but it looks like I'm assuming this is probably some kind of, yeah, static server. We use it to do a little static server. Cool. So we might not be the best place, but we can definitely help out in some way.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ethan.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I guess then if there are no more announcements, I think we can jump officially to the agenda. Sounds good. Okay. Yeah, I think we have more or less the same agenda as the last time. I think we didn't cover sometimes in the last, I mean, some of this stuff in the last two meetings. Should we spend like a minute deciding which one is the next topic to discuss? Because I think we discussed it a lot on URLs and HTTP strategy in the long term, but maybe we can discuss a little bit on Karen in the gold mine or other HTTP related things. Go ahead.
Well, you stole the words right out of my mouth. That was what I was going to say. With getting it back, Express back in, I think that also maybe this is a timely topic. So I thought maybe this would be the one.
Let's start with the issue 35 then.
So maybe 35. Okay. Good for this one.
Yeah. I think.
Go ahead, sorry.
No. I think I don't have like the full context on the Canon in the gold mine because I think this issue originally was from 2020, so it might change a little bit.
So I think it has. Well, I don't know if it has actually, to be honest. I think these things have stayed pretty much the same, partly because the frameworks have stayed the same. So what I was thinking when we first talked about this was that we should be a little bit more proactive about curating what's in Canary in the Gold Mine around HTTP related APIs. So the Node project can delegate certain parts to, certain decisions to teams or working groups. And it would seem to me like this is a good team to make recommendations around what is in Canary in the Gold Mine related to the HTTP stack. I don't know if we need official delegation there, but the idea with this issue was let's go through and do an audit of what is in there, make sure that we think it covers the right things. I know in Express we have body parser, we got a few things, but I feel like there is some gaps. There's explicitly some gaps that are tested by Express, but are not directly tested. Oh yeah. Did y'all see that in the?
Oh, yeah. Let me add Marco. Sorry.
And so the idea here was just to make it a little bit more formal. like, you know, maybe do a little audit of what's in there, go through the existing frameworks and see what would be, you know, valuable to be testing in Canary in the Gold Mine that we're not, or if there are modules that we think we don't want to be maybe not removing today, but planning to remove in the future to like replace with something more modern or whatever. That was what the issue was for. So I think we talked about a bunch of little different topics in here back in 2020. So I guess the question is like, do we think this is important still? Do we want to, you know, do a little round of audit of which ones are there and make sure they're, you know, aligning with what we think is important? I guess that's the topic for discussion.
I can provide a little bit of context on the current status of the Canary in the Gold Mine. So basically, there was a little bit of a challenge for the last, I would say, like half of the year, where when we do releases in Node.js, we do the Canary in the Gold Mine, and there were a lot of flaky tests. And that was one of the reasons why Trot did a initiative. Let me see if I can find that one, where we removed a lot of breaking and basically bankruptcy of flaky modules was the idea. So heaping all the maintainers, we tried to see which of them survive or not, and at the end we removed a lot of them. So it was a first purge already made in place. In terms of responsibilities, I think, not very sure how is that today, but I think as part of the release working group, they have some ownership on the Canary in the Gold Mine, but not very sure how much in terms of day-to-day right now, because it's a little bit of open. I mean, I think that the release team is one of the most heavier users for that, but doesn't mean that they are not open to discuss with the rest and so on, because I'm not very sure also if the Canary in the Gold Mine team is still working right now or not, or how's the status. So maybe we can just, yeah, that's a good point. Maybe we can just ask for help on that, or just following your point, Wes.
Yeah, I think that would be a great thing for us to offer help on. I'm just kind of perusing the list right now. Yep. And definitely feels like there's some things that need to be, I mean, certainly some things that need to be updated. So I think ideally for all the Express packages, we need to make a PR that adds maintainers. So we would want to add the rest of the TC, I guess, or something. We can figure out what we want to do. Maybe we do the like Express side repo captains for those ones. But then I think there's a lot in here. And well, Fastify is, I'm sure Fastify probably has other modules they would like to be that actually couple to Node Core APIs directly. And I'm not seeing a lot of them in here. So
what do you mean they're coupled with the Node API?
Say that again. Sorry.
Sorry, what do you mean they're coupled with the Node API?
Well, the goal of Sitchin is more to make sure we test modules that are really tightly coupled to specific Node APIs. So HTTP, we assume Express tests are going to fail if we mess up the order of events, you know, or something like that, right? Similarly, we would assume that a bunch of the Fastify plugins and ecosystem modules have similar things to like Express Session or you know, because Express Session, I've always been surprised that we do test it because actually it's less coupled to Node Core APIs. But I think having some sort of, you know, clear guidance on what types of packages we think should be in here. Because like, yeah, I mean, I just made it to the bottom of the list and I don't see any of the other Fastify stuff. I'm wondering, you know, and same thing maybe for Koa and the others.
Yeah, I don't see Nest.js. I don't see them also. So maybe they were and they remove it. I don't know. But yeah.
And especially as we're going to make new HTTP APIs here, I think it's going to be pretty important for, I mean, they might not be using those APIs right away, but as we iterate, you know, I think it would be good to get those folks in there earlier if we can. Oh yeah, go ahead, Ethan. Sorry.
All I was going to say is that I think we tried adding Next.js to the Canary in the Gold Mine. Me and Stifle did, but it got blocked because I think it doesn't support PNPM the right way. Like there's a couple of issues there that where I think it just became like deprioritized on our side. But we also were seeking some of that stability to try to if we could be a part of carrying the gold mine. But like I said, just progress halted and we haven't picked it back up again.
Is there anything that outsiders can help with on that, or is that something you all need to kind of do internally on your own?
I think it's fine on our own. I think mainly we need to prioritize the work internally again. And if I need to, like, I probably just need to pull in some external collaborators if there's something that we don't know how to do on our own. I think a part of it was like a lot of people were just like, yeah, it doesn't support it. You can try to add support. And we're like, well, what does that mean? And that's kind of where things like may have halted. I'll have to try to find the thread. I wonder if other projects who might not just be using NPM fall into a similar pattern where Canary in the Gold Mine doesn't necessarily support their package manager of choice or something.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how that part of it works, but I'm a bit surprised that this is difficult enough to warrant that. I've helped many people at work transition from package manager to package manager, and there are definitely major differences. But it feels like you need to be pretty in the weeds on your package manager specific features to make it difficult to support that. So I would love to see what those issues are. Maybe maybe there's a way we could work with Zoltan and get him to help or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just found the link. We're the latest PR. And it brings up Corpac. Yay, everyone's favorite topic. Um, I think the issue is that SitGim just uses latest or something, or just like, or doesn't respect the package manager field. And at Vercel, we make very heavy use of the package manager field. And that is probably causing an issue where our stuff will just not install because of that. And I think we asked if how we could update carrying the Goldman accordingly, and we haven't gotten a great answer just yet.
Guys, wait, so I just lost track on the agenda where which point are we discussing, because I saw that Canary at Goldmine is the last one. So did we arrive already at the end of the agenda?
We did a reverse order today. We just started with Canary in the Gold Mine because we just discussed about it on the announcements. So yeah, we changed it a bit.
Yeah, after we discuss that maybe a little bit, there is more point. We could go back to HTTP Next and one pull request that Marco did.
Yep.
Yeah, I would like to talk a little bit about that. So I made this pull request just to bootstrap the work, to show that like let's start doing something. It's in any way anything ready, but like I would like to use it as a way to start discussion on what like the new ergonomic, like the shape of this new HTTP server should look like. And like I will keep it updated. I will like I would like to have a look at it, like see how we can make it like the my pull request is basically a very simple TCP socket inbound, so it will accept new connection and have a request object. That on the request object there is a function write that will write on that on that socket that has been open. This is very similar to what happens today, but like I think we can do much better and like abstract this part and like use Node add-on API to integrate it without having to fight with like V8. Also, so this way it will be portable. It can be released as a dependency by itself. So yeah, that's what I've been doing.
This is awesome. So thanks. Like this is what, yeah, I think when we made this repo, we were hoping somebody would do. I'm wondering, so this is like, I think a really awesome start. I'm wondering, is there a way we could like, should we just land this? I guess actually is what I want to say. So part of the thing with the reason why these things end up sort of stalling is we don't have the foundation in place sometimes to make the little incremental process easier. And since it's really low impact to merge, it feels like we should just like be really liberal about merging this stuff. And once, because we can always fix or change or whatever. It's not like this is shipped anywhere. Does anybody think that like let's bias to action?
Yeah,
I think it's good because at least you can download it and you can run it and you can test it on your own machine. I understand that for someone who's not very familiar with C++, it's hard to get started completely from scratch. And the thing that I'm not the best C++ developer. This is very far from being production ready or stable or whatever, but at least it's something working and like a foundation that we can all use to. Yeah, the link to the PR, let me send it to you.
And so one thing I was thinking too, I'm looking at the name packages Milo HTTP server add-on. With the goal of this being a proposal for Node Core, I would think there's some value, maybe not a lot of value, we'll see, but in doing a little bit of naming bike shedding as we go. So like, if we're going to start giving this link to folks, what we probably want to frame it as, and I can write a README or something if we want that to this point and submit the PR there, but basically say, this is our proposal for a new set of HTTP APIs. The names match what we're proposing. They would be exposed as top level modules, like whatever we decide the details are of it. I'm not saying they have to be top level modules. Maybe we, HTTP server add-on maybe is just a private, an internal API. But we can hash those things out as we go. But I think like if we just start merging these and we add packages that are proposing, new additions, I think that would be great. And so I guess what I'm trying to drive at there is I feel like we should follow Node Core. Like this should be something that we could like lift into Node Core without very much work. So like if we're going to call it packages, maybe we actually just make this repo mimic Node Core and we have, lib and internal, and then like we put the files where they would go if they were to land in Node Core. Does that make sense?
I do not agree with this approach because it's like Undici at the beginning. It started as something completely separate, and like the main issue is that the effort to maintain and to properly bind it to Node.js is larger than using NAPI, and when it's time, we can just like remove NAPI and put it directly in. Like it's an effort that I wouldn't put at this time at the beginning. Like it's something that I would do once it's established and like we know it's working. Right now, it will just like completely destroy the development flow. In my opinion.
Okay, you sold me. I agree. So I guess then maybe my next question would be, if I wanted to propose some JS level APIs, what would you want me to do to contribute here? Would I make a new package and just write some tests around it?
Yeah, I guess. So what I did is basically create an event emitter, okay, and pass the emit function in C++. So every time there is data, it will call this event emitter emit function and emit it. And on somewhere else there is on data on error listening. So it's like very trivial. And what I would like something like, I think it's very important to define like the new JavaScript feeling of this HTTP server. Like, should we right now? I'm exposing an event emitter that it basically wraps the event into an async generator, and then you can like put it into a web stream, or you can consume it in any way. So we should start from like top, see how we want this HTTP server to be consumed, and then we can work in the C++ side to fit into this, because yeah, like otherwise we would just end up making the same thing again, and we don't want that.
Agreed. Okay, yeah. So if we are all right doing non-functional code and working from both ends, I think that should work, right? So I'm happy to write some example JavaScript code that would, you know, be the web request and response objects and those kind of things. But being that we have the socket and that we still need the middle layers. Do we think it's effective then to work from both ends and like meet in the middle? Or do we want to define a lot of the JavaScript APIs first so that we can then do the C++ layers up? Like, what's the most effective?
So I would say that it's important to start defining on JavaScript side, like what the request object looks like, what the response object looks like, what the HTTP listen function looks like, so that we can implement it on the C++ side more easily. Like then we can start to think about agents, about like timeouts and all this like very HTTP stuff. Yeah, like I don't think the implementation, the complexity of the implementation is the hard part. I think the hard part is to design something better than there was before.
Yeah, very much agreed. This is great. I also do think I feel like I made an issue to the point of designing both the high and low level APIs at some point. Yeah, here it is. Where?
Was it one created in 2020 from memory?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so there's a future of high level API design with some comments in here.
So we can link that in the PR, and I probably should write a bit of documentation on what like this is actually doing and how to interact with it. Yeah, we'll do that in a follow-up. Matteo commented that we should abstract some layer. Yes, this is why design is very important. Like keep in mind we will have at least two type of sockets, probably three, because one is the TCP inbound, we have TCP outbound, and then we have UDP for like when we want to integrate quick in the future. So there definitely is needed a layer of abstraction.
So to address Matteo's comment, we discussed this a little bit back in 2020, and there was sort of two feelings about this, I think. If I'm remembering correctly, anybody who wants to correct me or add more, feel free to, but there is okay, if we have an abstraction that would manage HTTP 1, 2, and 3, is that a dynamic API that understands, so you have one request object and it understands whether it was an incoming request from HTTP 1, 2, or 3 and has different methods depending. I mean, that's pretty rough. I would say bad, maybe objectively bad. Or is there you get a different request object based on which incoming HTTP version? That was another way. I feel like there was another third or something that we sort of discussed. I feel like one of the ways we discussed was having all the methods and then having them throw if you use one that is not supported by the HTTP method that you got the request in on. And then there was the question of like, when you start the server, do you say, hey, start 3 servers, right? And then there needs to be some sort of negotiation, or your infrastructure layer needs to understand to talk to different ports for them. Like, what does that look like from a end user perspective? And does that even make sense? I think was still something that was sort of on the table. And we never really got a good decision on. So I think we probably, to be honest, this sounds like a really great session in London for the Collab Summit, because I feel like we're going to need to like dig in and really like write some code that shows the different ways so we can see the trade-offs, right? And not just the trade-off, because we're going to have to think deeply about the performance implications of these high-level APIs, right? We're going to need to think deeply about the implementation details that would get us there. And so that just seems to me like something we're not going to, do today first, but also that might be kind of hard to do. I guess we could open up like 3 PRs and just implement a example of each of the methods and then say, hey, what do folks compare? I guess that could be a way to discuss.
The way I thought about it is that probably this is something that we could effectively do in London to see like, okay, let's look at what the HTTP1 server looks like. Let's look at HTTP2, see what they have in common and what functions are shared. And then I think we can start implementing by writing the most atomic unitary parts, like inbound TCP socket. Like you cannot abstract that more than that. Like you can create a socket that implements like both, like it's a superset of inbound TCP, outbound TCP, and UDP. But like this is the lowest level of abstraction, and like in this case we start from the lowest level and try to think in the highest level how to abstract all those 3. I guess we can do this in London, and we can create an issue like I don't know, probably have a point in the agenda and start to discuss, like have a point and discuss about it, and meanwhile open an issue to track it.
Yeah, you mean the Collab Summit discussion?
Yeah, like so that we, before we fill the agenda for the Collab Summit, we say, okay, this is what we should look like. So because if we go there and we have no idea what we should talk about, it's just useless. So before we, like, let's answer some questions before, let's find a point of discussion, and then we will discuss them in London.
I think we need to get the Collab Summit event proposal in soon, though, right? I have an email from Joey, I think, that I've been meaning to.
Okay, I was checking for the email and wasn't able to find it.
Well, I think it went if you did the attendance form and put your email in, I think is what. So if you didn't put your email in, I think it was optional.
Okay, no, I just missed it. I have it, but I missed it.
So it says,
yeah, okay. So you can submit an issue, part of the OpenJS Foundation submit issue, and the link is this one.
So should we take the one takeaway from this today should definitely be we should do that. Does somebody want to be the person?
I can open an issue.
Okay.
Yeah, I will open it. Do we want to put specific information on that? Even so, there is already a proposal done by Ronag on future of HTTP client.
Yeah, that's
which would be, I guess, close-ish, or at least linked a bit.
Yeah, we should sync with Robert and see what he was thinking there, so that we make sure we're not either conflicting or anyway.
Yeah. I will try to ping him on Slack to discuss with him about that.
It also looks like there's an Indici one. So maybe if
So
there's
Indici seems to be for the next major version.
Yeah, that seems more like a tactical session. Like it sounds like maybe getting prepared for the next major. I'm just saying these are all, I mean, if we're going to propose one for servers, but we recognize that the underlying APIs are all pretty heavily shared, then we should at least maybe chat with Matteo and Robert on so that we scope things correctly.
Yeah.
And then I guess my other question is, are we comfortable using this old issue about the future of high-level HTTP API design as a starter? Like, it doesn't really have a whole ton. Well, I see Robert in here basically talking about some ideas around exposing async. I'm just blanking on the word. Sorry, my coffee's not sinking in yet. Async generator functions as an API. There's also him talking about maybe, see, he's got some prior work in here, so we'd probably want to start there. I'm wondering, do we want to use, I guess my question really is, do we want to use this issue, or do we want to move this issue's content over into the HTTP next in the form of a couple of PRs? I guess that seems like
I think the second one seems like the best idea.
Okay, I can probably do that, and just take some of these code examples that people have in here, and then I'll post in this issue, I'll close it, and I'll say we're moving this work over into the concrete, implementation stuff in the other repo. Okay, cool. I'll do that right after this meeting.
Cool. So we move to the next topic in the agenda. I guess we can choose which one we feel more accurate. We have like around 50 minutes. So
I'm just checking the one called discuss the future of HTTP client and Node.js. I don't remember what was the exact topic on that.
Yeah, me too. Let me have a look also.
Just because we saw that it's a discussion like HTTP client and Node.js to the next one. So I think I'm seeing a comment from Wes from 4 years ago almost saying, can we close that? I guess.
Yeah, I think we close it.
Yeah, I think we can. I do think we can close it, yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm closing it then. So 66 done, 60. doing some live cleanup, it seems. I think the 60, so future of HTTP high-level API design is what we discussed a bit before, Wes, you were talking about that.
Yeah, so I'll close that one. I'll post some of the ideas over. I'll ping the folks who are in the thread and make sure they know that we're moving it over to complete.
Cool.
And then I'll close it. And on this note, now so what we're really doing is just cleaning house here. Issue number 54 on the agenda also I think can be closed. So Ethan, this was yours. And this was just like, let's organize the work, which I think we are now finally doing. You literally mentioned your HTTP Next, and we got that repo. You got that repo created. Matteo mentioned benchmarking, but I think, and that's actually maybe something we do in the HTTP Next repo, is we could set up some benchmarking once we get the things sort of ironed out in a semi-functional place. We can do that, but I think this one can close too.
Yeah,
if I remember that, I'll do it right now.
I can close it if you want. Are we all good? No objection. It's closed forever. And I think there is a 55 also. The work on planning technical work to the future HTTP module discussed. I think this one could make sense, like, to keep it, just because James like added quite a few details there between quick HTTP 3.
Yeah, maybe we can rescue some of this stuff in a pull request. Same way. Yeah. Anyone want to do that?
Like, I remember also, I'm not sure if we have a pull request or something, but I do remember that James, like 3 years ago, did a demo about like some of the stuff that he was like showing us. I don't know if it was pushed in the pull request. I don't know why. I remember seeing the code. I remember we had a specific meeting to do that. I think the meeting may have been recorded. It could be interesting to try to find it, maybe if it's on a YouTube channel, just at least to add a link and to see the demo that, or the idea behind everything that was discussed. So I
agree with that. To address this issue, I will volunteer to make this into a PR. I will add a docs directory in the new HTTP Next repo along with this. And I will just say, here's a small write-up of the direction we're thinking of going, kind of thing. And then we can iterate. We land it as is, just I'll literally copy James's content, and then we can iterate as we go. Okay, cool. I'll do that as well.
I will try, like, if I'm able to find the old video from the web server farmer group with James demo, I will try to find it.
Yeah, I think also it's good to collect more resources, like more videos and more talks and stuff from previous Collab summits and stuff that are relevant, even for people who are not very deep into the HTTP library currently. So we can provide a lot of context, just because I think not all the frameworks are here, so maybe other people would jump and join us, like in a couple of months, and then it's like a lot of context missing, so might be useful.
Yep. On a side note, it's quite fun to see everyone old faces from 3 years ago.
Pretty sure that was back when I had long hair.
Yep. I do agree with that. I will try to find it then. So and 71, is it something that we want to keep, or? So the 71 was URL on incoming request. It was an issue on your part, Wes.
I think this also needs to turn into probably a concrete PR into the new repo, right? Like we probably just need a proposal on what the URL handling APIs are going to be, right? Or actually, do we even need a proposal? Isn't this just going to follow, probably just going to follow the request spec, the browser one, right? The Whatwig. I think that one's Whatwig.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that Marco added an issue related. Okay, so, and Marco added, so, okay, let me give you both link. It will be easier that way. So this is the issue. And the last message that Marco added like 2 weeks ago is a link to this issue that was opened by someone about HTTP server message URL does not follow the Whatwig URL standard and does not evaluate. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I'm interested on this. I don't think it's a good idea to change the API for this. I don't know. I'm not fully strongly opinionated, but it feels like, I mean, Mara's last comment in this thread is absolutely spot on. It would break the entire ecosystem.
Yes.
And to make it a parsing option, I'm interested in that. I don't know if that actually works. So here's what I'm picturing in my head. A framework comes in, wraps this, and has a bunch of libraries that work with it. And then we add the option to create HTTP server. So then a user passes the option to create HTTP server, but all those libraries don't know whether they're getting option A or option B. And so they would depend on the behavior of one, not the other. And so your whole entire application's dependency tree with all the framework details included would need to know which mode you're operating in. Maybe I'm wrong, but it feels like this is an API that, while it makes sense at the node core layer, wouldn't actually propagate through the ecosystem in a reliable way that would make it actually useful. And so it seems to me like we would be better off having a new API that then libraries that depend on one behavior or another would be able to choose between. I know that's not great because it's new API surface area, but I feel like the alternate proposed here is difficult just because of the number of libraries that would depend on the behavior.
I mean, since we like, can we like, if we were to start fresh, how would we do this? How would we handle this? Like, and this is the questions that I would ask, and then see, okay, also how other runtimes are handling this, and then we can maybe see, because obviously we cannot break the whole ecosystem, so we need to like apply a patch.
Yeah, so I believe that Yagiz is working on some, actually, that, you know what I was thinking of is a different thing. But I think with Ada, I believe that URL is fast enough that we could just go all in on it. I think previously that was not the case, and that was sort of the biggest concern was URL is slow. If we make the URL that every request definitely needs be the Whatwig URL constructor, that's slow. That's a problem. But now I don't think we have that. So like, I think if we're saying what is the ideal, it's like, let's just go all in on making URL the way that we handle this, right?
I think from memory and discussing with the Yagiz, he wanted still to do some optimization, or someone else was talking about like trying to still optimize some access between the JavaScript and the C++ side, but I think it's completely hidden from user land on all cases. So yeah.
The thing I was thinking that Yegi's pointed me to is they're looking at in Ada using URL pattern, which also would be great, because if that's fast, then that would replace path to regex for Express, which would be phenomenal. But I think that kind of does overlap a little bit, right? Because I think there's some URL pattern things like that we would want to make sure those APIs play nicely together, I guess, is where I'm going with that, and make it, nice and clean in the new API. Whether we can do that effectively in the old API, I think, is a pretty hard question, right? Because again, if we add an extra parameter of, I don't know what we'd even call it, new URL, right? It's not exactly nice. Anyway, like all caps URL versus lowercase URL, also not nice. But like if we had a new API for it, I don't know if that moves the needle very much, because so many libraries would have to move, and I'm not sure how valuable that is on the existing HTTP API for folks. Like, it obviously, this is a bug, I think, in that, or maybe not a bug. It is a behavior difference that from a user's perspective is a bug, because they don't necessarily understand. But at the same time, the alternatives might be actually worse.
Yeah, I think that was a good conclusion. Huh? This from my side. Yeah.
Do we need to comment in here? Marco, are you comfortable with that? Do you, because you're the last person to comment saying a PR welcome. Are we aligned?
Yeah.
Okay, I can comment with what I was saying here, if that helps then.
Yeah, because I commented PR welcome because usually when someone asks for something, incredibly disrupting in the ecosystem, it's better to show up with something concrete rather than talks. So yeah.
Good. Last 2 minutes. Any other hot topic or fast recap? Anything else to discuss?
No.
Good. So
maybe do we want to just say there's a collaborator summit in a month, and you are all more than welcome to join. It's in London, so for people in Europe, it may be easier to join.
Yeah, definitely. There's going to be like a support or like kind of online. It's going to be like a streaming.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Like at least on an email and message and everything, it was said. Let me check it. So information. We plan to have a camera capturing the room for the Zoom call according to regular login. We plan to improve hybrid attendance this time. The host will provide a setup for us, and we plan to bring backup equipment as well. There will be one or multiple microphone, and people in the room who wish to speak during the session should raise their hand and wait for the turn so that remote participants can join the queue virtually, and we can have a productive hybrid session.
Sounds good.
So yeah.
Yep. Sounds good, and a good improvement, actually,
yes,
from the previous summit. So,
that's true.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay. So yeah, I think that's all for the meeting today. So see you in a couple of weeks.
Yep. See you, everyone.
See you.
Bye-bye.